Lives and livelihoods thrown into limbo. New U.S. visa rules effectively shut the door on immigration from 6 countries. But are Washington's claims of safeguarding national security an excuse for discriminating against nations based on race and religion? I'm Imran Garda, and today's newsmaker is Donald Trump's expanded travel ban. According to one US-based think tank, the chances of being killed on US soil by a terrorist from one of the 6 newly banned countries is about 1 in 2 billion, whereas the chance of being murdered during an everyday homicide in the United States is about 1 in about 14,000. Despite that, Kyrgyzstan, Eritrea, Myanmar, Sudan, Tanzania and Nigeria find themselves targeted for exclusion. Of the latter, Trump once said that Nigerians who entered the US would, quote, never go back to their huts. Odd comments considering their well-documented contribution to America's economy. Because the ban now affects more than 320 million Muslims and a quarter of all Africans, Washington is being accused of forging its immigration policy along racial and religious lines. And it seems Trump's latest salvo, aimed at the war on terror, is instead targeting naturalized American citizens and their families. Adam Pletz has more.
During his presidential campaign, Donald Trump had called for a complete shutdown of Muslim immigration. Once in office, the controversial travel bans he's put in place have been met with multiple legal challenges and widespread demonstrations. Now, the US president wants to expand the restrictions.
We're adding a couple of countries to it. We have to be safe. Our country has to be safe. You see what's going on in the world. Our country has to be safe. So we have a very strong travel ban, and we'll be adding a few countries to it.
Can you give us a hint about the region or the country?
Well, it's going to be announced very shortly.
Trump's 2017 bans originally affected 7 majority Muslim countries. Iraq and Sudan were later removed, but North Korea and Venezuela were added. Another 6 nations, mostly in Africa, are now facing constraints on any visas that can lead to permanent US residence. The new bans affect a quarter of Africa's population, including its most populous country.
President Trump announced the suspension of immigrant visas for Nigerians because Nigeria has room to grow in sharing important national security information. I'm optimistic that's going to happen. In the proclamation, President Trump highlighted Nigeria's importance as a strategic partner in the global fight against terrorism and recognized the government's commitment to improving information sharing with us.
But many Nigerians believe the US is shutting the door on their future aspirations.
Relocating to USA is actually very hard, but it's somewhere I want to visit and probably relocate to if possible. But now that sounds like something that is not even possible.
Democrats, including presidential hopeful Joe Biden, oppose the policy.
You know, you don't have to accept the president who promulgates hatred and exclusion toward Muslims and trumped up bans on travel bans on Muslims.
In the coming weeks, the US House of Representatives will vote on the No Ban Act, which aims to end Trump's travel restrictions. But to take effect, it would also have to pass the Republican-controlled Senate, which is unlikely to vote against the president's orders. Adam Pletz, The Newsmakers.
Well, to discuss this, joining me now from Cambridge is Tunde Doherty. He's the Deputy Chairman of the APC UK, Nigeria's leading party. Michael Johns is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He's the co-founder and national leader of the US Tea Party movement. And joining us from London is immigration attorney Leila Mansouri. It's good to have you all on the program. Tunde Doherty, Nigeria has failed to meet minimum security standards. That's why the Americans are doing this. Do you buy it?
I will not agree with you that Nigeria has failed to meet the minimum security requirement. Even though there are insurgents, there are a lot of overwhelming fight against insurgents, Boko Haram, banditry, kidnapping. But the government is doing its best to make sure that this menace is curbed. You see, Nigeria as an emerging democracy needs all hands on deck to curb this menace, and the government is doing their very best. Of recent, regional councils in Nigeria had set up a kind of a security outfit to help beef up the federal security combat in combating this menace. I believe that is a challenge. Everywhere in the world there is menace here and there, and I do not think that it should be a parameter for any other nation to judge Nigeria as not being secure for business or a citizen not being given opportunity to go to any part of the world.
Okay, so Leila Mansouri, we have Tunde Doherty doing a bit of introspection, saying that, yeah, maybe Nigeria can do better. We're fighting terror on multiple fronts. Maybe there could be some more intel sharing and so on. We're doing our best. But should we even be having that conversation about the intricacies of Nigeria's security challenge and how that affects the United States? Or does this ban come from a different place? Does it come with different intentions?
Well, I think the intricacies are related to the U.S.'s national security, but what's going to happen, and this is what happened with Iranians 2 years ago when the first ban happened, they are supposed to implement a waiver process, for example, for family members, and they did not do that. The whole thing was a sham. So for 2 years, there was a complete ban on, for example, an Iranian American U.S. citizen could not even bring their spouse. So I'm afraid this is going to happen again this is going to happen now for Nigerians. And what we're seeing is the majority of Nigerians that are in the U.S. are just applying for their immediate relatives to come. And it will, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens, but I doubt that they're going to be letting these people in.
Michael Johns, this is an extension of Executive Order 13769. Started out initially on the campaign trail as a total and complete shutdown of Muslims, became a Muslim ban, evolved into something else. The Supreme Court approved it in a different way, some would say a diluted way, a watered down way. As things stand right now with the extension and expansion of it, do you support it?
Yeah, I think it's first important to recognize, number one, this has never been a Muslim ban. Some of the largest Muslim countries in the world, including Indonesia, are not part of it. The vast majority of Muslims in the world are not subjected to it.
Although it came from a place in which the president wanted a Muslim ban. That was the genesis of it all. That's fact.
I acknowledge that there's an evolution between his campaign rhetoric, which was perhaps oversimplified, to the actual governance, which is the most applicable issue here, the actual executive orders, which have been, as you correctly say, rendered constitutional by our highest court in the land, the Supreme Court. The president clearly is authorized, both under his constitutional authority and under additional statutes that were passed in the 20th century, to have control over our immigration. And it's important to recognize from an American perspective that this is essentially crucial to maintaining the security, the public health, and the stability of any immigration system. We have, you had quoted the president's remarks about them not going back, but in reality, there were nearly 30,000, 29,723 Nigerians in 2018 who did overstay their visas. Now, part of this, in fairness, is a deficiency in our own ability to monitor visas in this country. It's sadly a reality that many around the world enter on visas and simply never depart. They overstay their visas. It is nearly as big of a crisis as our border crisis is, even though it doesn't receive as much attention.
But Michael, that's not what the president's saying. The president's saying, and Leila, you can come in a second, but Michael, the president is saying this is a security measure, right? And looking at the details, you can still go to the United States on a tourist visa, on an education visa. So it's different from, say, Iran and other countries, right? If you want to blow something up, if you're a terrorist, you're not going to wait 5 years for a green card. You're going to try and get in however you can get in and do what you're going to do. So how does this increase the security of the United States?
Well, the issue at
Exactly.
hand
Overstaying a visa
Go ahead, Michael.
doesn't
Go ahead,
mean
Michael.
you're a
Yeah.
threat to national security.
Layla, just a second. Let Michael answer, and then you can chime in.
The issue here is one of data sharing as it relates to people that are going to be here over a prolonged period of time. For those who are here for specified reasons, you're correct, it doesn't apply to them or for tourist purposes. But as part of that process, those individuals and their plans and the basis for visiting is clearly established. It's a reasonable question as to whether it's not a broad enough ban. And that's, you perhaps that you make a point there, but the issue is that these are the areas where there were perceived to be the largest risks. And by the way, I'm very optimistic, just as Chad was ultimately removed from the ban list back in 17, the following year, that the government of Nigeria, I think, is very well intentioned in resolving and working with the United States to resolve these issues. And my degree of optimism is very high that I think ultimately they will be resolved, maybe even quickly resolved.
Okay.
And the issue will take care of itself.
Layla Mansouri.
Would you think it's reasonable to add Saudi Arabia to the list, since they just committed some Saudi citizens just committed another terrorist attack on a military base a few months ago?
The issue with Saudi Arabia and several other countries in the world is that their data sharing processes that they have put in place are very elaborate and satisfactory to the U.S. security requests and needs. So when an individual applies for a visa from Saudi Arabia, if they have a criminal background, for instance, we are made aware of that consistently and routinely. It's a very well constructed system that meets U.S. security expectations. The countries affected in the original travel ban and in this travel ban, including Nigeria, do not unfortunately have those systems. And I think, frankly, I'm not putting the entire burden on Nigeria for this issue. I mean, there's probably lots that the United States can do to work with Nigeria in resolving those issues, but their current data sharing is not nearly as elaborate as Saudi Arabia's, and it's not satisfactory for the purposes of the expectations of the security of the American people.
So, Layla, when we look at that, let's set aside the president's comments and maybe take Pompeo's comments, the Secretary of State. Let's take his comments about data sharing. Does Michael Johns and the Secretary of State make a valid point? Okay, if you're not going to play ball in terms of data sharing, then perhaps we need to do something to encourage you to eventually share at the level we want you to share at.
I agree with that, but I think a bigger problem is ideology, and a lot of these people who commit terrorist attacks come out of nowhere and they have no criminal background. So how do we filter through the people who have extreme ideology and extreme beliefs? It's not so clear-cut as just sharing intelligence and data sharing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no one said it was clear-cut. I'm not saying it's clear-cut either. What I am saying is there are minimal standards that need to be met. And if we can't, for instance, articulate and understand what the criminal background or the terrorist affiliation background of an individual is before they come to the United States, they should never get on a plane to come here. And that's the U.S. position, and it's entirely reasonable.
I want to bring in Tunde Doherty here, because Tunde, when we look at the big picture and we look at the countries that experience some level of a ban, and again, it must be reiterated, these 6 that have been added are still allowed short-term visas, but not long-term immigration opportunities, right? So we look at Iran, Libya, Somalia, Syria, Yemen, North Korea, and now the additions, Kyrgyzstan, Eritrea, Myanmar, Sudan, Tanzania, and you have Nigeria. How do you feel about Nigeria being in that company, Tunde?
I do not think Nigeria deserves to be in such a list because from the analysis of my colleague on this program, it is clear that Nigerians are the most cerebral, highly professional, highly educated immigrants in the United States of America. They excel in all of their professions. And Nigerians, the young Nigerians that are aspiring to immigrate into America wanted to be part of that American story that will make America or any part of where they find themselves in the world great. You see, putting Nigeria instantly in a ban list does not really really go on. It's not a good thing to do from President Trump's point of view. Nigeria has vast over 250 different ethnic nationalities, and we manage ourselves. So if there's a pocket of criminality, banditry, terrorism, and all of this in Nigeria, which the Nigerian government is really containing. And for goodness sake, the president of recent just launched a new visa regime where we have categories of visa. And the United States has their own profiling, the way they profile individuals, the way they rate people before they can give them visas. You know, you cannot use the larger scope that this is happening here, that is happening here, without looking at what the government is doing. Where Nigeria is today is an emerging democracy. America has been in such in over 100 years ago. So Nigeria is supposed to be given that opportunity.
Right.
Nigeria is supposed to be calmly dealt with and support in times like this, because the government is really doing what their possible best to make sure that the best affordable tax is used in combating this menace, and America needs to take it easy with Nigeria and redress their instance of the travel ban.
Okay, Leila, come in.
The first travel ban was mainly an Iran ban, if you look at the numbers and the percentages. And the problem is that Iranian people are suffering under a dictatorship. And how are they going to convince their government to cooperate with American intelligence? So, you know, because I have so many clients that are just trying to bring their spouses and their parents, for example, how can the Iranian people give the American government what they need and bypass their own regime? That's something else, and that's probably what's going to happen with Nigeria as well, because this second travel ban, this new one, is largely a Nigeria ban when you look at the numbers. So that's something else that's important to see and raise.
Michael?
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that while the group of countries affected by this travel ban were announced simultaneously, it's a mistake to put them all in the same category. I think the points made are reasonable. The fact is Nigeria, you know, has a democratic governance. It's got a fairly decent and I think still developing relationship with the United States. I think both countries are committed to resolving these issues on data sharing. Some countries like Sudan, like Iran, are state designated supporters of terrorism. And on almost that basis alone, they're included, meaning we're not going to ever get the cooperation in the current state of relationships with those two countries that are so dedicated to basically fulfilling ill will in the United States and around the world. In the case of Nigeria, I think there is a commitment to a resolution, and it's almost an issue of looking at this as a technology and data development challenge as it is any particular concern with the policies of the government of Nigeria.
So let me then ask you, Michael, do you feel that the president doesn't fully understand his own executive order?
No, I think he understands it at a high level. I mean, a lot of these policies drag into a lot of granular detail that the president can't be, any president of any country can't be expected to understand in any detail. You pointed out one of those issues with the rhetoric that was used in the description of a Muslim ban. I would never have used that phraseology. It's certainly not what this policy has evolved or developed into. The vast majority of Muslims are not affected by it. It does so happen to be that within the Middle East and within certain areas of Africa appear to be where we have the challenges on these visas. And parts of those are just simply underdevelopment of technology and understanding of their citizens, and others are more malicious and dangerous, such as governments engaged in outright state terrorism. I put the issue of Nigeria in the former, not the latter, and I'm pretty optimistic that we're actually going to get some progress on this and a resolution of it. Okay, but that resolution is crucial to get. We cannot be reckless or rolling the dice based on the sort of rhetoric that we're helping somebody's client abroad, or that this is going to make some family of a foreign government. No country more pleased. No country in the world that has any degree of sensitivity to the security of its citizens can operate its immigration policy on that sort of foundation.
Okay, so Leila, as somebody who represents some of these families, do you take offense when you hear that? I'm sorry, but national security is more important than somebody's spouse getting a visa.
I just don't think this is so much about national security. I mean, elderly grandparents are being banned right now. I mean, of course, I'm American and national security is very important to me. But then I see Saudi citizens on American soil just a few months ago shooting up a military base. And Iranian has, I don't think any Nigerian has ever even committed a terrorist act in the U.S. either. So I also think the president should hire more immigration lawyers around him when he writes his policies, rather than just people who are maybe just policy advisors, because it would help with these intricacies if he did that.
Tunde Doherty.
The point is that we had this fully upheld at the highest court in the land. There's really almost no issue that's more legally clear cut than the president's ability. If he wanted to cut off all immigration from every country in the world, as unreasonable and counterproductive as that may be, and as it may sound to you, he has the constitutional and statutory.
No, he has the constitutional right. But one of the things that we're doing here is we're trying to look at it in context, right? So we're looking at it in the context of his comments as a candidate. We're looking at it at the beginning of the ban. We're looking at it even as recently as just a few hours ago when he's at a rally and he's complaining about the fact that a South Korean film won an Oscar, right? So you're talking about a president who doesn't view foreigners kindly. And that's the kind of context that we're discussing here. So we're going, well, is there something deeper at play here? He might be legally... Legally, he can have the right to do it, but we're asking, why is he doing it?
He's doing it to protect the lives and immigration processes and procedures of Americans and American citizens. That's the constitutional oath he took when he was inaugurated. He did not take any constitutional oath and has no constitutional obligation toward these other issues as it relates to foreign citizens. His first primary and only obligation is the security of the country. That is not satisfied when we don't have data on people that are entering.
Okay, and that's where you and on that point, you and Leila disagree. Tunde Doherty, when we look forward, we've heard Michael John say that he hopes that Nigeria will go the way of Chad and be removed from the list. Some recent polls that I've seen in Nigeria, even after the news that Nigeria would be added to this list, Trump was still popular among 6 out of 10 Nigerians polled. I myself have met a lot of Nigerians on green cards in the United States who are big Trump fans. They're Republicans, they're huge Trump fans, right? So with all of that in mind, do you foresee this for Nigeria, which is separate to Syria, separate to North Korea, separate to Iran and others? Do you see that maybe Nigeria will be able to be taken off the list sometime soon?
I do believe that President Trump will redress his stance on Nigeria, because Nigeria, in every facet of life, wherever they are, Nigerians are hardworking, like I've said before, and there's no Nigerian that is in any economy that is not making impact in that economy. And because of that, President Trump should look inward rather than generalizing, rather than believing that the terrorist act being committed in Nigeria should be a kind of disadvantage to very high number of Nigerians who are great everywhere they find themselves. I believe America was built by immigrants. Nigerians are not exceptions. America, even the president himself, is an immigrant in the United States of America. And if opportunities were not given, I don't think the greatness we're talking about in America today will be there. And Nigeria is part of that great history of America. And I believe that President Trump should encourage the young Nigerians, those brilliant brains that wanted to have a feel of America and impact positively into America. What Nigeria needs now is support in the areas of helping the government helping the government in the area of security, in the area of education, and in the area of economy. Because whether we like it or not, Nigeria is a great economy in the future.
Right.
And what it needs is all the support, and not creating an instance of banning that would not help the American, African trade growth that is emerging.
Okay, I'm out of time, but Tunde Doherty and Michael Johns, good to have you back on the Newsmakers. Leila, good to speak to you for the first time here on the Newsmakers.
Thank you.
Hope to speak to you all sometime very soon once again. It's been a fascinating discussion. Thanks for joining us. And thank you for watching this episode of the Newsmakers. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.